All right, let's wait for Romanland. Meanwhile, I'll send a tweet.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Quite good.
Nice. What time is it there?
It's 6 o'clock, so that's more than fine for me. And you?
10:30. That's also more than fine for me.
It's still nearly the time to sleep.
Yeah, I usually sleep late, so I think I'm like all good. Cool. So
Cool.
I've already
Let
sent
me.
the tweet. Let's see if everyone can see us and can hear us fine.
Yep. I'm also sharing the live on a few communities.
All right.
And hello, everyone.
Hello.
Quite a lot of people on the chat already.
Yeah, that
That's
feels
great.
good.
Yeah, it's nothing is worse than streaming with no one in the chat. You're just talking to yourself, trying to entertain yourself, hoping that someone will just jump in,
Yeah, that's the reason I
So
have
hard.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
at
hard
least like
to
if
stream.
everyone drops, at least you will be there to listen to me.
Yeah, correct.
All
Correct.
right. So like, should we start or?
Maybe you can like chit chat a few minutes to let people join if they missed the tweets.
Sure.
So yeah. Let's
Hey
see.
everyone. Here comes
Yeah,
Julian.
hello. I love the baguette. Some French people trolling. Yeah, baguette is great. Do you know how to say baguette? Yeah, you should.
Now I do.
Yeah, now you do.
Yeah.
Baguette. Yeah, that's people always troll about baguette for French people, but yeah. I don't know why. Maybe it's on the movie, when you see a French guy, it's always with a beret, like the hat, and with a baguette. So that's maybe the reason why people troll about that.
All right.
Cool. So yeah.
Yup. Cool. So I think we can start now.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of this will be new for you as well. Like I've been sharing a few ideas around V6, but like what exactly like the entire plan is, we can talk about that. So
Yep.
like with V6, my main goal is not to have any breaking changes, or at least like have very minimal breaking changes when it comes to the functional code. So like not changing too many APIs or moving things around, and focusing mainly on the ESM migration, because moving from CommonJS to ESM itself is going to be a huge thing. So it doesn't make sense to let people first say, okay, now you basically have to like rewrite all of your inputs, and then you also have to change the way you are interacting with the code, and like change the APIs that you were using. That kind of becomes a mess. So I don't want to do any sort of breaking changes on that end, or maybe like very minimal breaking changes, something which is very important, and we can like go ahead and do a breaking
Yeah.
change
Yeah.
over
Not
there.
not like V4 to V5 where we migrated to TypeScript.
That was
Well,
like crazy.
yeah, there was a lot of breaking change, but the APIs looks a bit like the same, so it should be quite should have been simple. But yeah, it's people like are scared to migrate because they feel like it's going to be a endless migration.
Yep. So I think Yuan was asking, is it only him, or am I like sounding too low? Is it fine now, or is it still bad?
Let's see.
Okay. So a few people are saying voice is good. It will be great if you can speak a bit louder. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but
Let me
now
increase
should
the
be good.
gain.
Now should be good. Yeah. I'm hearing the feedback. It should be good.
All
Should
right.
be good now.
So I hope it should be good. Like just dial the entire gain level. So that's like the best I can do. Wonderful. Yeah. So let me also like speak a bit louder now. Basically, yes. So it's not going to be a crazy ride as V4 to V5, but since we will be moving from CommonJS to ESM, there will be like breaking changes within the platform and the way, and like the breaking changes the module system itself brings. And I was like writing a few notes for myself that I can use to basically write the change log, so we can talk about them a little bit. So very first, like when you move from CommonJS to ESM, every import needs to have a file extension. So you cannot say like slash user only. You have to say like slash user.js. So you have to like give that extension over there. So that's like the first breaking change. Second, index files are not treated in any special way now. Earlier, when you used to have like a folder, and within that folder you had an index.js or index.ts file, you can just import by the folder name. You don't have to give the entire path.
Specify.
Yeah, so that's not going to work as well in ESM. You have to like define the entire path. These are like the two major ones that people like basically have to adjust their imports for. The other one is we itself will be using the platform more. For example, right now you can alias your app directory with the app alias. So instead of like saying import backslash and / model.js, you can say app/model/user.js, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I believe. Well, to everyone using Adonis, I believe it makes sense. Like when you see your imports, you see it's from the root and it's with an uppercase later at the start.
Yep. So you basically like don't have to write any relative paths. You can basically use the alias, and then you write like the alias and the folder and the file name. Now Node.js let you do that natively. So Node.js has a thing. Maybe we can go to the documentation. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, it's called imports.
Yeah, so if you go to Node.js, and then we I think here it is. Yeah, so this is the thing. What you can do is within your package.json file, you can define like imports. Then you can like, this is like basically an alias, and it should always start with a hash. And then you can define the directory that you want to alias. So if we go like, this is a better example. Here you can say hashtag internal /all.js should actually look for the files within the source/internal directory. Now, if I rewrite the same thing for AdonisJS, let's say if we go here, you can say app/all, and then it will be this. That means when you were saying import user from app models user, now you have to say app models user. Basically, the old namespace will, or you can say like the old alias will not work, and it should always start with a hash. Like that's part of Node.js. Now, it doesn't make sense to have the same aliases support within AdonisJS and basically like ignore what Node is doing. It's better to actually use the platform. And once we will remove this support for aliases, you will have to like rewrite some of the imports. And
a code mod will be provided to rewrite them for you.
Yeah, so basically like you don't have to move them by hand. We can like give you the code mods which do it automatically. And as far as I know, they should be able to like cover the most of imports for you, except some edge cases that you will have to do by yourself. Now, with subpath imports, I was also thinking to like take and can we change the hash to other symbols? No, you cannot. That's
No,
like defined.
it's a node features, built-in
Yeah.
node. So
Yeah.
this is how it has been built, and it cannot be changed.
Yep. Another thing I was thinking to basically take a step ahead and within the documentation and also with like the default app, ship with like more aliases. So instead of just having an app alias, maybe we can do models /all. We'll go to app models all.js. So that then you will basically be writing your imports like this. And we can do it for models, we can do it for controllers, event listeners, basically everywhere it makes sense. That will make your imports a bit shorter as well. Cool. What else? Yeah. Apart from these changes, there will like there can be places where you can have subtle bugs depending upon how you have been writing your imports. So a very common one is, let's say you are using a package which is written in TypeScript and published as a common JS module on the npm registry. Now with ESM, when you will import that package, the default export will not work right away. And for that, I in fact even got a simple example over here. Can you see my screen, Roman?
Yeah.
Cool. So here I have a package.json file, which where I have saying type is module, which makes the entire project a ESM project. And you can assume this user.cjs file is shipped by a package which was written using TypeScript, and they compiled to CommonJS. And this is what TypeScript will output when you say export default user in a TypeScript file. Sorry, function user. This is the JavaScript they will output. Now, if I import this module inside a ESM project, which is basically this file, and I run the code. So let's do that. You can see ideally user should be the function right away, but it's nested inside a key called default. But if you run the same code under a TypeScript project with CommonJS, then this user will be a function. So as you can see, there is a subtle difference when you import CommonJS modules, which has exports.default property. It will not work as you expect. Does it make sense?
Yeah. And this is why you should always use named exports, please. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the main reason people have hard time migrating to ESM. It's importing CGS modules, because you never know if you need to put .default or not. That's it's a scary thing.
So Tina asked, maybe off topic, but is there any plans for official Q module for V6? Unfortunately, not right now, because during the starting of the stream, I said I just want to focus on moving the framework to ESM and handling everything related to that, and not focus on any new features right now. But I know Q is one of the most important things, so I might be looking into it later, but not with V6. Cool. And yeah, so this is one of those subtle bugs that you can have that you were expecting. Oh, I got dependency, and why it stopped working like out of nowhere, and this can be like one of those subtle bugs when you move to ESM. Let me get the official feature. Thank you. And
Yeah, people love skews.
yeah. Also, another thing.
Yes, same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yep. Okay. So another thing with ESM, when you're importing files, you're not dealing with file paths. You're basically dealing with a URL. Now, what you see here can be a URL and can also be a path. But when you deal with absolute file paths that some package has, for example, if you scan a directory and you pull all the files from it, and then you try to do a dynamic import out of it, usually when you're scanning the directory, the result will be a string, which is the absolute file system path. With ESM, you first have to convert that to a URL before you can import it. Now, again, the reason I'm mentioning it, if you were using some package which was doing something like this, it will not work out of the box. And either that package will have to support converting the absolute paths to file URLs, or you have to find a way to do it. So that's like,
if you were using a dir name, it's not working anymore.
Yeah. The one place where I found it, when you use packages like globe, and you give me all the files like config/all/all.js, and packages like these gives you an array of absolute paths, and you cannot import them right away, but you were able to require them earlier. Now you will have to first convert them to URLs, and then only you will be able to import them. And Node.js has utilities for that. So you can say there's a method called path to file URL. You can use that, but it will not at least work out of the box. Cool.
Yeah, another difference you didn't mention yet is you're going to change the IOC container, and you want to be also more into the platform than creating the own stuff. So no more at IOC on the imports, right?
Yep. So that was the next thing I was about to talk. So right now in AdonisJS, you can write code like this: import route from @IOC Adonis core route. Now, how this works is some internal implementation we got where we actually hook into the TypeScript compiler, and then we rewrite this import in a different way that actually resolves the route from the container. Basically, this entire import statement gets rewritten behind the scenes. I thought we will be doing a IOC container repo review. Then I will get into the internals properly. But for now, we will be getting rid of this because it's a very custom thing which relies on hooking into the TypeScript compiler, and we uses their API of transformers, which not all TypeScript compilers support. So today, if you want to use ESBuild or SWC to compile your AdonisJS projects, it will not work because we need a special transformer, which both of these packages does not support. So with V6, you will be able to write the same thing, but this way. So it's going to be AdonisJS core services route. Now, how all this works, again, I'm going to keep that for the IOC container repo review, and we will get into the internals properly. But for now, this is going to be a breaking change. But since it's again rewriting the import, we will be able to do it automatically using a code mod versus asking you to go through all the files and change a zillion import statements by hand. Next, we have Tushar. He says, can we accept MongoDB support in the future? Someone in the community I know have written a very good Prisma integration for Adonis. So if you want, you can go ahead and use that. And I think Prisma supports MongoDB as well. And the way that package is written for Adonis, it can also work with the auth. So if you want to use auth alongside MongoDB, you can use that package, which uses Prisma under the hood.
Yeah, but no official support planned, at least.
Yep, I don't use Mongo, so I don't know what to build and what to ship. So it's better to actually rely on people who use Mongo, build something that also get maintained.
Yep.
Cool. So we talked about the subpath imports. And yeah, I think these are pretty much going to be the breaking changes, like everything that Node.js brings when we are moving from CommonJS to ESM. The subtle bugs that you think are supposed to work, but will not work because how ESM is structured. And at AdonisJS side, we are keeping all the breaking changes minimal. We are not changing too many APIs, maybe a couple of APIs here and there. And the main breaking change that AdonisJS will push is again related to imports. We will be getting rid of this in favor of this. Now, internals are something we will discuss in a different call.
Yeah, so no need to be scared of migrating your app to Adonis 6.
Yep.
Should be a 30-minute job. Or less.
Yeah, it depends. I will not commit to 30 minutes, but I think it should not take more than a day or so. Yeah, depending upon how complex your apps are and how many other stuff you were using. Mm-hmm. Can you show you the .ca for a second? Was taking coffee. Yeah, sure, I can. It's Kevin. So this is the file which as the output that TypeScript gives you when you are compiling to CommonJS. Then Ashok asked us auto model generation coming in 6. As I mentioned, I'm trying to keep myself away from any new features because I don't want V6 to be a thing that's just getting dragged for years. I just want to migrate from CGS to ESM, handle all sort of breaking changes, and get all the applications ESM ready before we start, changing the framework in a way that itself can introduce more breaking changes. If that helps.
And there is no reason that it is not here at the start of V6, but then it can be built on top of it and came later on. So there is no reason to have it for V6 launch. It can wait. Yeah. V6 is for breaking changes and ESM migration.
Yeah. So we can say, okay, let's make V6 a big thing, and we just put everything on hold, and then we release everything together. That might sound great from the point of view of showcasing things, but it will make it harder for people to actually migrate their code bases. Now, at least when I'll be migrating from V5 to V6, I know I just have to take care of imports or maybe like a couple of APIs, and everything else will work. And from there on, we will be using the latest JavaScript spec. We will be using ESM. We won't be in the common JS land anymore. And from there on, we can start focusing on more features, whether it's about generating models by inspecting the database or maybe creating any new packages.
That's the main goal. And also, if you want to provide everything at the same time when V6 launch, you're going to wait so many more time to have V6 than if it was only the ESM migration. So but better to release V6 with everything working well now, and then we can focus on new features, so you don't have to wait to already migrate to Adonis 6 and use ESM package, because the main issue right now in the Node ecosystem is if you are coding in CGS, in CommonJS, and if you're using Adonis 5, is that you cannot import modules which has been written in ESM, like the GOT package, the version 12, which is written in ESM. You cannot use it in your app because it's in CGS. Whereas if you are in ESM, you can import CommonJS packages. So it's way easier to migrate to ESM, and then we start building stuff from here than waiting again and again and again, because the ecosystem start to migrate already to ESM, and you start to become blocked because you cannot import those packages. So it's good that we migrate.
And I think like the number of packages is getting increased. So right now, maybe a lot of people not face any issues because the number of packages is less. But I have seen a lot of authors moving to ESM only. Even like when I'm updating the dependencies within AdonisJS packages, I have to ignore a lot of packages because they have become ESM only now. And if any of them have any security issues, I'm like kind of stuck because those security fixes have been landed into the new version, which is ESM only now. And once you see, like a good number of packages move to ESM, then AdonisJS, like as a framework itself, will become kind of a pain for you. And then everyone will be like, okay, why you are like holding for all features to get done? At least like first move with the platform, and then you can do whatever you like want to do at the features level.
Yeah.
Cool. I see Julian said it will be great if you can talk about the IOC container changes. So I said that we will be doing that in a different call. So we are like planning to have multiple live streams and doing repo overviews as I'm like refactoring the packages. So we'll talk about the IOC container changes when we do the IOC container repo overview. Then we have Kelvin. Hello. Cool. So yeah, these are like basically going to be the only breaking changes. We will give you the code mod so that you don't have to like replace all these imports by hand, because a lot of imports are predictable, and if they are predictable, that means they can be like codified. And for the rest of the imports, you might have to do them by hand.
Yeah, and you need to be careful because if you're using any third-party package, they need to be migrated to the new Adonis version. So wait a bit if you're using a lot of Adonis modules, but not written by the core team also.
Yep. Cool. Is there anything else you want to discuss related to ESM or?
No, I believe we are fine. I hope people are happy to not see too many breaking changes for the migration, and that's when you think about it, everything you have done is using more the platform. So it's great. It's great for everyone. Less struggle, and it's good.
It's mostly just to follow the same standard. I think like of course like very first like ESM is the standard of JavaScript, and CommonJS was mainly like built by Node, and then everyone else started using it. So if you use the module system, which is part of the language, then it's always good. And as I said, like a lot of packages are moving to ESM. You cannot use ESM in CGS, but you can use CommonJS in ESM. So any idea about the release, I think, date? No, I don't think I have any dates right now. And like that should be the last thing I should be commenting on. And then Dina asked for Q. I think I answered that. We are not focusing on any packages right now, just doing the change and focusing on packages later. Cool. I think that was related to V6. I know it's not like a lot of goodies, but at least it will help us migrate most of the apps from V5 to V6 and not like letting people stay behind.
Yep. And then the goodies will start to come.
Yep. I have few plans, just holding them off. Cool. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the env package. So this is basically thing that I'm planning to do, and then I asked Roman if he would like to be part of it as well. So we both are planning to do now is go through all the repos and like give you guys a more deep dive how actually certain packages work, because documentation usually covers you what you need to know in order to like make that thing work within your application. But there are like some technical decisions behind the scenes, and there are some internals which usually cannot be documented, otherwise it will make docs really verbose and very harder to follow as well. So then we have a comment. You guys are, I'm sorry, like I have to, like I was looking at the comments, so I have to talk about it. Yeah. You guys are opinionated, right? So I don't have to, yeah, we are opinionated about the opinions we have. I don't have any opinions about like Mongo or Prisma. So if you want to use Mongo, then maybe you have to stick with something else. Anyways, so yeah, so I thought like this time we can pick a small repo, because we have to talk about the V6 changes plus a repo, so that should be small, and we can take you like through the code and how actually it works. All right, let's see from where we can start. This is the example application I've got. Maybe, yeah, so this is source code. Let me go to next branch. So next is the branch that will eventually become part of V6, and it's same across all the packages. Now, all the README setup instructions you are seeing here, it is not when you are using AdonisJS to write an application. It is mainly when we are going to use this package internally, or maybe if someone is interested to use it, because it's a framework agnostic package. So it doesn't uses anything from AdonisJS. And I think we have only one dependency. Let's see. No, we have a few. We have like one on .env, then we have on the utils and validator, right? Yeah, so there are dependencies, but not anything related specific to Adonis. And so let me start by talking about environment variables in general. So environment variables are something that exist on your machine by default, and you can use them like you can set them using bash as well. So when you are like usually creating an AdonisJS app, you have that .env file, but even if you remove that file, you can still use environment variables. That file is just like a convenience to define all the environment variables related to your project in one place. But apart from that, you can just like set environment variables via bash as well. For example, if I, let's say, create a new file, index.js, and here I say process.env, .env.foo, and here we say foo is equal to bar node index.js. You can access it. It's an environment variable. If you want to set for the entire session, you can say export foo equal to bar, and now you can run node. Without doing that, you can still access it. Like you can like pretty much have environment variables in many different ways. Having .env file is not important. Even if you remove .env file from your AdonisJS project, it will still work fine. But since you usually want to define them in one place, it's convenient. We give you .env file that get loaded every time we boot the framework. We read the variables from this file and set them as the environment variables that you can either access the env class that AdonisJS gives, or even using like process.env, which is a Node.js global object to access all the environment variables. Now, so far, like with V5, we only used to load .env, and like we only used to load .env file, and when you were running your test, we will optionally load .env.test file, which can override any environment variables from .env file. But with V6, we are taking a more standard approach, which is kind of a standard across other communities that I've seen. So if we go to the Symfony docs, they talk about it. And if you go to .env from Ruby, which like a lot of Ruby projects use, they also talk about. And that standard approach is, alongside .env file, you can have like a lot of other files as well that has different priorities. And we will be like doing that in Adonis 6 as well. That makes sense, Roman?
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
And
Cool.
I believe even a front-end framework are doing that right now. Like Vue also have the .local stuff and .test and .production too. So yeah, it will be easier for you to have like a environment dependent environment variables. Wow, that's hard to say.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, the idea is that you have like your base environment variables. Like the very first, you don't have to use all these files. If you have a very simple setup, you don't have to complicate things for yourself, because a lot of projects can just live with one .env file. And but if you're doing different things, for example, when you are writing tests, you might want to override some of the environment variables without actually, like removing them from the file and then putting them back when you're not running tests. So then it can be nice to have a .env.test file. Another example can be, which I myself encountered, that so let's say you have a code base which is like already running in production, and you have some base set of environment variables for them, but now you are working on a bigger feature, and that feature need different set of environment variables. So, or maybe it removes some of the old environment variables. In that case, you can create a .env.local file, and .env.local file take precedence over .env. So when you are working on that feature, you have a separate .env.local file, and there you are like defining all the new environment variables. If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. If you're using .env in production also, because you're not obligated to use any of those files in production or even in development, but we recommend using them in development because it's way easier to define environment variable. But of course, in production, if you're using something like Kubernetes or whatever, you can define those in Kubernetes configuration. It will be maybe safer, so you're not obligated to use this file. I know many people believe they should use that in production, but you're not obligated. As Haman said before, we are only reading and writing into the process.env stuff. So it's the same as defining them directly in your bash or Kubernetes or pod or whatever you're using.
Yeah. And like, in fact, if you're deploying to a platform that has first-class support for environment variables, it's better to define it over there versus, like roaming around with a lot of .env files. If you like use Cleaver, if you use Heroku, they all kind of have support for it. But if you decide to go with having .env files, then you can, pretty much use all of these files which have like different precedents. So just to give you an overview, the highest priority is given to .env whatever is the current environment right now. So if your node env is development, then it will be .env.development.local. Then the second precedence is given to .env.local, the file which gets loaded in all the environments. So if you are in production, your development, or any environment, this file will get always loaded. except when you are in test environment. The third priority is given to .env.development, so without like the local prefix. And finally, the last one is .env. So that's the hierarchy, and you can use it to override certain environment variables within your projects. We were not doing this, but with V6 we will start doing it.
Yeah, all control.
Yep. So that is why I created a small demo to showcase how all this works. So what we have got all the files. So in .env, I said the port is 3000. .env.development has 4000. This one has 5, and env.local has 6. Now, if I run this code, I say
node. Wait. Now we're no. Sorry. I said now we're going to play a guessing game. Yeah. Yeah. Which port will be set? No, it's too late now.
Yeah. All right. So it's set to 6000, but do you know like why it's set to 6000 and not this file which has 5000?
Yeah, if I understand correctly, it's because this one is like a shared. Well, no, I don't know. Tell me.
So this file is only loaded when your node env is set to development. And if I come here and I say console.log process.env.nodeenv and I run it, it's undefined. It's not defined.
Okay, that's why.
So so if I say nodeenv is development, now it's set to 5000 because now the environment specific local file takes the precedence over non-environment specific local file, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. And so that's how like the file precedence work. The other thing is you can reference variables across files. So what I can do here is I can say app URL is $host and $port. $sign is used to basically reference a variable. Now, even though within this file, the port is set to 3000, this port value will be whatever the actual value is after checking all the files, which takes the precedence. So if we go back, let's say app URL, we run it, it's 5000 and not what you define in this particular file. So that's like the second feature when you are working with environment variables, that you can have variables referencing each other, and it doesn't matter whether those variables are defined in the same file or not, because they are evaluated later in the life cycle. So whatever it's like the final value will get replaced over here. So that's like the second feature when you are using environment variables in AdonisJS. And the third, and the one that I like, is you can also validate environment variables. So the benefit of using so the benefit of validating environment variables are few. Number one, usually you will be referencing your environment variables in some config files, and then those config files will get referenced by some runtime code. Now, if you don't have an environment variable defined, then you will be getting an error that some API is trying to, like access a property which is set to undefined, and you have no idea why it's set to undefined. But when you validate the environment variables, everything fails early in the process, and you get like proper error that like your application needed this environment variable, but it doesn't exist. So that's like the first benefit. Second benefit is you get type safety along with the runtime validations. 1 second.
Yeah, and especially like you're talking about errors during runtime because you're missing one. Well, we all know that it's happened quite a lot, but also that it's not something we see in a lot of framework, and I'm a bit sad to see that, because it's so useful. Like, so many times when I start my app, it tells me like, oh, you're missing that, and I'm like, oh yeah, true, because the error, it will not fail like at the start or when you're testing it. It will always fail in production, and it will fail like 10 minutes after you launch, because everything is lazy loaded. So it's not it's very hard to debug if you don't validate those first.
Yep. So just to give a try, I have like basically commented out the host variable. So if we try to run it again, let's get rid of this. It tells me that I'm missing the environment variable host versus like getting any undefined, like trying to read the property but it's set to undefined kind of error. So it's really helpful. The other benefit is, as I said, you get type safety alongside it. So when I go here, it's telling me that I can access host and port variables, and if I select them, it will also tell me like what's the type of it. So let me hover over it, and it tells me that it's a string. And similarly, if I do it for port, it tells me that it's a number. So I have like type safety, I have runtime safety, and everything is failing early versus later in the life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's like one of the benefits of validating the environment variables. Another thing that I want to mention, so right now, let's comment this code out and let's uncomment this.
I was reading the comments from Adonis Adocasts. It's so true. Like he said for the one watching full screen that you're working on a feature locally and setting new environment variable, and then you deploy and you just forget about those, and then it fails, like because you didn't define them. But with the validation check, it will tell you early on. So that's good.
Yeah. Now, another thing, like a lot of people might be thinking, okay, well, like why AdonisJS got a special, like a class or an object from which we access the environment variables. Because if I do console.log process.env.host, let's do for both as well. You can see like both of them are also accessible from process.env, which is like part of Node. A lot of people know about it. There are two reasons behind that. Very first, there is no, I would say, type safety or data type support with process.env. So even though port is a number, we have also validated it to be a number. It has a type of string. So if I run again, you can see like it says the type of port is string. So you will be like doing this I would say like typecasting all the time within your application where you are referencing these variables versus doing them where you validate them. So that's like the one downside. The other downside is every time you say process.env, this thing is really slow. So like if you do a benchmark where you are, let's say referencing values from some object, and when you are referencing values from process.env, this is going to be a lot slower. So it has like a performance implication as well. That's the reason once we have validated the environment variables, even though like they exist on process.env, we ditch them altogether and ask you to like use this object which has type safety and which like also retains the data types. So here if I say a type of port, let's say port, you can see it's a number, like it's not a string anymore. So yeah, these are like some of the things that we do around environment variables. Like you can load different files and they have different priorities. You can validate your environment variables. You can substitute environment variables by referencing each other the way we are doing it over here. And then you can validate them to have a runtime and type safety as well. Cool. Does everything sounds good?
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. Nice. So this is like I was thinking to actually also go through the code base. This is not immediately helpful when you are building applications, but maybe if you're curious to know how it's structured and all that stuff. So this is like pretty agnostic, and it's like very low level. In fact, if you decide to use this package of your own, you won't be too happy because you have to like write a lot of code to get it up and running, because the intent of the package is not to be used directly. We just gonna use it internally inside AdonisJS. So let's go through the code. What we got is a file loader, which basically like goes ahead and load all these files. It has only one method called load. And what it does, it actually first looks for the .env path variable if that exists. Now this is a way when you want to tell AdonisJS not to look for .env files inside the project root, but instead look at somewhere else. So let's say if you are in production, you have kept all of your .env files inside, like some secret directory. You can run your application like this, env underscore path, like var lib something, or maybe like etc something, and then run your node application or like Adonis application. We basically do a bit of checks, and then we also check whether the node env is defined or not. If it's defined, then we'll load that specific environment.local file. This file has like the topmost precedence. Otherwise, if you're not in test or testing environment, we will load .env.local file. Next, if node env is again defined, we will load .env and whatever the environment is. This time, like we are not prefixing .local. And finally, we load the .env file. So the output of this method is an array of objects, and they are ordered by their preference, or you can say like by their priority. So the very first object in the array has the topmost priority. The second one has like the second most priority. This is how, and this is all like the loader does. It doesn't process any environment variables. It just gives you like the raw strings. And then we take those raw strings and then we parse them using the env parser, which also has a single method called parse. There is like a lot of internal logic going on to like substitute the variables and all that stuff. Now, we wrote like our own parser to substitute the variables versus using .env expand, which is like a very popular package. So I even have a note why I did not use it. So no, this is not the one. So I'm not sure like if there is any open issue for that or not, but there's this package .env expand that you might have used if you have used .env outside of AdonisJS. What it does, it adds the support for variable substitution within your .env files, but the package breaks when there is a dash within the name of the variable, and that's by design. I personally do not want that, so that's the reason I have to ditch that package. So that is what like the parser does. It takes the raw string, it converts that to an object, and this is what readme also shows you. So in the readme, first we are using the loader to load all the files, then we are looping over all the files, and we are giving the raw contents to the parser, which returns an object to us, and then we actually go through all the object properties and set them on process.env. Now, there is a very important thing to know, that if an environment variable already exists in process.env, then we do not override it, because that is how it has been by design, like across many other languages. As I mentioned earlier, when I was going through Symfony or Ruby.env, they all tell you to treat your .env files as defaults and never override the environment variable set by your system. So we like take the same approach.
Yep.
So yeah, that's pretty much how it works. Like, it's very low level code that we have like decoupled loader, decoupled parser, and then a decoupled validator. And finally, we instantiate this class that you see inside AdonisJS projects like env.get. And all this code is like behind the scenes.
And it is, like you said before, but maybe there is new people, it's framework agnostic. So if you want to use it in any of your app, you can.
Yeah, you can, but you have to like write a lot of code. If you're okay with that, you can. Yeah.
Well, they can write glue code.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what we are removing with Adonis.
Yep. So
Cool.
Cool. Does it all make sense, or does it like looks complicated?
Yeah, it makes all sense.
Wonderful. So yeah, that's pretty much like all I got for this little package. Unless anyone have any questions.
Let's see.
Cool.
Yeah, seems good. No question.
Yeah, no questions.
Already answered.
Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah, so I don't know if you already spoke about it, but you plan to do a weekly stream talking about Adonis core features, like packages like this one.
Yeah. So like I was thinking not to do it weekly, to do it, like bare minimum, like at least have one call every month, but there can be more depending upon how quickly I'm like able to refactor through the packages, because as I'm like going through all the packages, all of my thoughts are fresh, like why like we are taking certain decisions, why we are not using some other package, why we are doing like X in certain way. So all the thoughts are really fresh right now. So it will be great, like as soon as I've migrated the package to work with ESM, we can go ahead and like do a stream and talk about it, and maybe like also get some feedback. Maybe we are doing something in a stupid way, or maybe something can be improved. So get that feedback as well.
Yeah, get early feedbacks, and even show to people how it works behind the scene, because maybe there's people who want to help, to join the team, and this is how they can learn, and that's great.
Yep. That's the plan. Cool. So yeah, it looks like no one has any questions.
Yeah,
so
everyone's
all
happy.
Good. Yeah, everyone's happy. Yeah, La La Land.
Now we need to sing.
Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah, you don't want to hear me sing.
Neither me.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I think we are anyways. Like how long it has been? 58 minutes. So yeah, it has been
1 hour.
Stream.
So that has been exactly in time.
Yes.
Perfect. Cool.
Cool.
So see you soon.
Yep.
Thanks for this. That was great, and thank you everyone who joined in. And feel free to share this live stream. I believe it will be in replay on your YouTube channel directly, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's the benefit.
So
YouTube auto publishes them.
Yeah, so that's perfect. So feel free to share it to other people, share it to your team that has that are using Express currently, so they can migrate. I'm just joking. All right.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you very much,
All
Aman.
right. Yeah,
See you soon.
yeah.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
See ya.
Ciao.
Ciao.